Hey, Suzanne, how are you?
I'm fine, John. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Took me a minute there to work out how to communicate with you.
That's all right. Technology, eh?
Hey, exactly.
That's it. How's Sean?
Fantastic, John. Yourself?
Fantastic. Good to hear. Good to hear. I've had 2 nights good sleep in a row. Logan's behaving himself now. Well, not behaving himself going to bed. Takes about half an hour to put him in the bed. But he's staying there. Who else have we got? We have Kevin. Hello, Ruth. We've got Tina, Judith. Good evening, all. So let everyone jump on board and then we'll get cracking into this. I think it might have been a bit ambitious with 10 minutes. I'm not sure if we'll get through them all, but we'll see how we go. I ended up with 11 as well, so I had to cut myself short on them. You're getting extra. I'm over delivering. Hey, who's that? Nicola jumping on. How are you?
Hi.
All good. Oh, headset, Nicola, very professional.
It's on all day.
Oh,
It's just
yeah.
about on. I have a notepad and everything.
Oh, eager beaver, good stuff. I'll probably send out the slides to this actually as well because
All right, cool.
they're pretty good. It always helps to have them.
Do you know today is COVID's birthday?
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah. No. Oh.
Yeah. Somebody.
I don't think we should celebrate that one.
No, exactly.
Oh, so the first case was November.
First case was notified this time last year. Somebody told me that earlier on.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Ruth, will you do me a favor and check emails just in case anybody? I actually forgot to send out the reminder email. Just check, see if anybody is looking for the link.
Beside me.
Check Facebook or email, see if anyone's looking for the link.
Yep.
Hopefully they jump on. If not, we'll get cracking in a minute. Lots of people are looking for the recording for this. So it is being recorded and we'll send it out afterwards as well. So as I'm going through it, guys, you might have questions. So pop them in the chat box and I'll try to answer them on the slide that we're on as we're going. Or if your general questions and stuff like that, I might leave them until the end. And then if anybody wants me to cover anything specific, let me know now in terms of relating it to specific circumstances or whatever, and like that. You can pop it in the chat box and I can kind of just relate to it as I'm talking about relevant slides. Cool. Okay, so share my screen. Now, how is this working? Do I get to see? There it is. Come on, there we go. So you can see 10 weight loss myths stopping you from getting lasting results. Yep. Thumbs up. Sorry, yes, you're all muted. There we go. Okay, perfect. Let's see if I can get this. Okay, so let's get going. Does that work? Perfect. Okay, so the first myth that we're going to talk about is the myth that we actually lose weight. Think about it for a minute. When you lose something, you don't know where it is. Okay, when our scale weight goes down, we know exactly what's happened to it. We don't misplace the weight and we don't accidentally find it again. Okay, now I'm kind of tongue in cheek here, but the language you use around this is actually quite important because losing weight almost gives us a sense that we're not in control of it. That kind of like things are happening beyond our control almost, and that we kind of, oh, I've lost weight this week and then I've gained weight and I don't know why, or so we're going to kind of go through the whole kind of, let's say, kind of misconception of weight loss, even though I'm going to use that phrase quite a lot tonight. and interchange it with fat loss as well. But we do know exactly what happens and where it goes. Now, when I say we, it's not necessarily in terms of like physiologically, you guys might know about this, but we, in terms of collectively, scientifically, we know what happens exactly when we're changing shape, when the scales are going down. So the way I want you to think about the weight in your body is basically it's stored almost in two places. It's stored as energy in fuel tanks, and it's stored as other stuff in crates, okay? So just think about it as storage, okay? Because that's essentially kind of, we're holding this weight on our body. And the three main types of fuel tanks that we have are our muscles, which store protein, our fat cells, and the fat cells are not just under our skin, as when we kind of talk about body fat, it's the stuff we can pinch around our waist or something like that. But it's not just that. It's we have fat in our muscles. If you ever get a nice ribeye steak, you see the fat marbling and stuff like that in it. Our muscles are largely the same. And then there's also fat around their organs, and that fat is kind of considered to be the most unhealthiest fat because it kind of smothers the organs and kind of prevents them from kind of being as healthy as they can be. And essentially what we're storing in those fat cells is obviously fat. Then also in terms of your muscles, liver and brain are fuel tanks for carbohydrate as well. So kind of muscles have two roles, protein and carbohydrate. But the three main sources of fuel that we're storing are protein, fat and carbohydrate. Now, essentially what has to happen is they're all three types of energy. And in order to use up this energy, we need to send it to the blood. So then we have fat, protein, and carbohydrate flowing around our blood, and we burn that for fuel in all our cells. It keeps us alive, it keeps our hearts beating, our brain functioning, and we also use it when we're exercising and stuff like that as well. So they're your kind of three main sources, let's say, is kind of when we're looking at our weight as stored energy, essentially. But also we've got other stuff. So there's things like, your water, how much water is in the body. So you've water in your blood, in your muscles, in your organs, in fat cells, etc., that kind of thing. There's food. So, I kind of ate dinner about an hour and a half ago. I've got food sitting in my stomach. It's being digested. That has a weight. It's been, going into the intestines. Food that I ate for breakfast and lunch has kind of gone further down, etc. It's all kind of has a weight to it. Then there's the actual volume of blood, and then you've got the weight of bone and organs and stuff like that, which we can't really manipulate too much. So that's the kind of other stuff, let's say, stuff that we're not burning as fuel. It's not there kind of available for energy. However, that being said, is the food that's being digested is going to get converted and stored as fat, carbohydrate, protein, or burned in for their various functions. So we don't lose weight, we burn the weight off. Okay, and that's really important to kind of view it in this, is that you're burning the weight off, you're burning energy. And this other stuff will fluctuate, and it fluctuates hourly. So the amount of water that our body is holding or retaining in the body will fluctuate on a regular basis. The amount of food that is being digested in your stomach obviously will depend on how much you've eaten, when you've eaten, etc. Your bowel movements, exercise increases blood volume. There's lots of different things that will increase that kind of weight on our body, but that's not when we're looking to lose weight. That's the stuff that we're not looking at really affecting. What we really want to affect is the three fuel tanks that we were talking about. And more importantly, the fat cells. Okay, but when we lose weight, and the sense of the term that most people talk about, I want to lose weight, I want to lose fat, is essentially it's energy. I want to burn energy, and that's what we've got to look at. Okay, we've got to burn energy. So another way of looking at it is our body cannibalizes itself for fuel because of a fuel shortage. I got this from one of my mentors, and I think it's just a really graphic kind of way of thinking about it. Is like your body is eating itself, and the only way your body is going to eat itself is because it's hungry. It needs extra fuel. That's what basically fat loss is, or weight loss, should I say, in terms of the scheme of things. However, when it's cannibalizing itself, it's not as selective as we'd like it to be, i.e. it's not just going to go, oh, there's fat, I'm going to take the fat. It'll burn carbohydrate and it'll burn protein. So we can lose muscle when we lose weight. We can lose carbohydrate when we lose weight, when we lose protein, etc. What we an effective strategy for fat loss is to being able to signal to your body to burn as much fat as possible and to hold on to your muscle, to hold on to the carbohydrate stores, etc., because you're going to need them for exercise. I never actually realized when watching Disney cartoons that they actually were cannibals. That I don't know how big, if you're watching this on the phone, but there's Donald Duck serving up a chicken, or I'm going to say it's a duck, to his kids, and it's like, says, "Dad, where's mom?" So yeah, essentially, again, kind of, it's a nice image to go alongside the things that we're essentially, in order to create effective fat loss, we have to cannibalize the tissues in our body. So one of the things when it comes to energy, I think sometimes it might be hard to think of as energy having a weight, but if you think about the energy that you're using, you know, seeing on your screen right now, or whatever, the power that's powering your devices, that go back down the grid, down the line. Where does that come from? It comes from a power plant, which is burning fuel for energy, the fossil fuels or whatever. Even the sun, solar energy, the sun is a big giant ball of burning gas. It has a weight. So we're burning this weight for energy, you know, when we're heating our house and stuff like that. And one of the things is that coal is measured in calories, the exact same calories that we measure food in. And in terms of, it's measured in calories because it's the amount of heat it produces. The definition of a calorie is actually how much heat it takes to heat 1 kilogram of water by 1 degree at sea level. It's got nothing to do with food, it's energy. Okay, so basically, as I said, it's just a unit of energy. That's what a calorie is. But we have these things thinking that calories are little kind of fat storing things that come out at night and kind of, you know, store fat for us or something like that. Hello. There's Nicola's daughter jumping on screen. Give her a wave. Okay, so basically, yeah, 1 kilogram of coal has about 7,000 calories. Now, I wonder, actually, it has 7,000 kilocalories. That's what we know as a calorie, how we describe calories. Now, in essence, when we actually measure this, and scientifically, a calorie is actually calories we know it is actually 1,000 calories. So if you eat a 250 gram or 250 calorie chocolate bar, you're actually eating 250,000 calories. It's just such a big number to fathom that we've kind of condensed it to big calories and small calories. But it's actually, as I said, we're actually eating 250,000 calories when we eat 250 calories, as we say. But 1 kilogram of coal is 7,000 kilocalories, calories as we know it. 1 kilogram of body fat is 7,700 calories. Now, think about this. There is more heat produced from burning 1 kilogram of fat than there is burning 1 kilogram of coal. That's a lot of heat. Let's multiply it by 10. To burn 10 kilos of body fat, you need to produce more heat or energy than you would to burn 10 kilograms of coal. So when we're looking at burning energy, it's actually quite a hard process. It's quite a large metabolic process, that the amount of actual energy that is required to burn off these stores that we have. So the last thing I want to do on kind of the actual whole weight loss side of things is when we lose it, is like, where the hell has it gone? So any ideas of when you lose weight, where does it go? Sean, on the money there. So we actually burn we lose most of it through our mouth. Okay, we expel it out through the mouth. Easiest way to think about this, think about a fire in a chimney. When you burn the coal or the wood that you put on the fire, yes, it leaves some ash, but that ash is fluffy and light. It doesn't have a huge amount of weight compared to the amount of weight that you actually put into the fire itself over the course of the night. But out the chimney, all that smoke, that's carbon. And that's essentially what we do every day, which we're breathing the air out. The average human being, the average adult human being expels about 1 kilogram of carbon out through our breath every single day. A little bit more than 1 kilo of carbon out through our breath every single day. We don't see it, But if you measured if you trap that air, essentially you'd end up, carbon emissions and stuff like that. It's measured in, kilograms and stuff like that. It's the same with us. We're breathing out carbon. It has a weight. And that's essentially when we're burning fat from our fat stores, we use it to fuel our body. That's energy. It gets burnt off and it'll get expelled through the mouth. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't mean that we can go and start burning more energy. It doesn't work that way. But it just means when we burn it for fuel, when we cannibalize our bodies, it goes out through our mouth. So does that make sense? Give me some nods if it does make sense. If it doesn't, give me some shakes of the heads. Cool, good stuff. So one of the things I want you to get from this is burning fat is quite a demanding process, okay? As I said, burning fat requires, actually kind of produces more heat than, or requires more heat to burn fat than it does coal. So that's quite significant. Okay, there we go. Now, okay, so myth number 2, that you can change your metabolism. And things like speed it up and slow it down. Your metabolism essentially is the thousands and thousands of chemical reactions that happen every day in our body, and it's to convert the food and drink that we eat into fuel, or to store it, to get our hearts pumping, blah blah blah. It's all your metabolism. But everything that we do essentially requires energy to do it. So it's not a simple thing that we might like to think about. And we have very little control over our kind of base metabolism, as we'd like to think. It kind of largely controls us. And this has been shown in studies where we put people in metabolic ward, we put people in metabolic chambers, where scientists put people in metabolic chambers. And essentially, this is an airtight, sealed room that this girl is in. She gets her food fed to her through airlock chambers and stuff like that. Everything she breathes out is measured, is sucked through pipes and measured. Her waste, everything, any food she doesn't eat, she puts back out and says, so they can measure everything. And this is the gold standard of how we measure metabolism. And what we see when people are studied in this environment is that there's very little effect that we have consciously on our metabolism, that it's kind of largely kind of governed in terms of kind of how fast it is and blah 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 and so on that. Yes, we can change it, kind of by standing up or moving around more or whatever, but largely that's only a tiny fraction or percentage of it. But by and large, our metabolism is set, and it kind of largely, as I said, controls us. And it's been shown, they even give people in kind of studies like this, they've given people drugs to make them kind of expel calories out of the body, out through the urine. And there was one drug they gave them, it was 360 calories that came out through the urine. And what the body did was it slowed itself down by 300 calories to match what the drug had forced the body to get rid of. So even if we're trying our hardest, your body will adapt and change, and your metabolism will adapt and change in ways that is completely unknown to us. We're unaware of it, etc., and that kind of thing. So very slow metabolisms are extremely rare. They did a study on Biggest Loser contestants. These are people who, kind of lost, 150, 200 pounds type of thing. And the average slowdown in metabolism, they started off at 2,600 calories of a base metabolic rate, and it slowed down to about 2,000. So it was 600 calories. Now that's when losing, a human being essentially like that. That's quite a substantial amount of weight. So even people who have lost substantial amounts of weight, and yes, their metabolism had slowed down, it's not this kind of, to a point where it's only 500 calories a day or something like that. Those kind of things just kind of extremely rare, don't really exist. But you got to think of your metabolism as it's adapting. It adapts to so many different things. It adapts to how warm you are, how cold you are. So if you're cold, your body's going to heat you up more, and your metabolism essentially gets elevated. If you're warm, your body will actually doesn't need to produce as much heat, so it actually slows down your metabolism. And again, this has been shown when people are sleeping and stuff like that in these kind of chambers, that again, the metabolism adapts to so many different things, and it's all this kind of completely uncontrollable thing to us. So even if we had an extremely slow metabolism. If we wanted to actually burn fat, lose weight, we'd still have to consume fewer calories than we're actually putting in. We can't change the metabolism, but we can protect it. Okay, so that's a kind of an important thing to note, that we can protect it through exercise and that kind of thing. I've now just blocked my screen so I can't see my slides. How do I do this? Oh, there we go. Okay, so there we go. That's better. Perfect, good stuff. So let me see my chat box. There we go. Okay, so okay, you with me so far? Give me a yeah. A nod of the head, thumbs up, perfect, good stuff. Okay, so next. Number 3, with myth that if your weight goes down, it's a good thing. If your weight goes up, it's a bad thing. As I said before, we talked about the fuel tanks. We talked about the storage. All that contributes to how much the scales, what number on the scales will say. So, things like you have water, blood volume, bowels, muscle, protein, carbs, mixture of them can all change in terms of on a daily, on an hourly basis. And obviously fat. So when we step on the scales, it doesn't necessarily, and kind of see a number change, whether it's up or whether it's down. We don't know what that is. Now, what can change all this is that exercise, diet, and I'm not just talking about the amount of calories we're eating, the amount of food we're eating, I'm talking about what we're actually eating. So carbohydrates, higher salt, how much water we're drinking, how much fiber, all that will affect how much actual kind of stuff is still left in our body. Our sleep can affect it, our hormones, and then, as I said earlier, our actual temperature, the temperature can affect it. So again, if I stood outside in a pair of shorts, I'm going to be shivering. That's my body burning more calories to try and keep me warm. So anytime we step on the scales, we simply don't know what has changed at any one specific measurement. Okay. And that's kind of it's an important thing to grasp, that kind of looking at those individual measurements are only a snapshot, and only a sneak peek into potentially what might be going on inside our body. So don't judge the scales. Don't ever judge the scales over just one single meaningless measurement. There's so much stuff that's going on in your body that hopping on the scales one day a week is only, as I said, just giving you this brief glimpse into what potentially might have happened in regards to your fat levels in the body. So myth number 4 then, that weight loss is predictable. So it's kind of like, if I eat less and or exercise more, I should lose weight, or if I'm good, I should lose weight. And therefore, if I'm bad, I shouldn't lose weight. If I've, being bad, and I hate the terminology of being good and being bad. Your metabolism, like I said, it adapts. So we know that it adapts, again, using these metabolic chambers and studying the actual, metabolism, what's actually going on in terms of chemically inside the body, that different levels of heat production, fidgeting, how much we're moving, the amount of energy our brain is using, even just our overall amount of energy, we get sluggish and lazy. Your metabolism can to adapt to what you're putting in. And it's been shown that literally, going on a diet, even just for a week, your metabolism can start to kind of match what's coming in, and actually reduce the amount of just subconscious fidgeting you're doing, just making you a little bit slower, more sluggish during the day, producing less heat, and essentially it lowers down the amount of calories that you're burning and matches what's coming in. So some of this stuff is called, we call it NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, or heat production, essentially. So all this stuff is kind of like, we're completely unaware of whether it's happening to us or not, but it can happen to us. And therefore, as I said, is even if we do eat 500 calories less a day over the course of a week, our metabolism could actually start to slow down. Maybe not as much as 500 calories, but 200-300 over the course of a couple of days. So we can't predict that. If I eat 500 calories less every single day, multiply that by 7, is 3,500, and that's roughly the equivalent of 1 pound of body fat. You can't say if I eat 500 calories less, I'll burn a pound of fat. It's just not predictable. We have absolutely very little control over whether we will burn that pound of fat or not. And again, this is where it's coming back to this one scale weight measurement one day in a week. It's almost as like you're looking for the stars to align to, have your kind of true exact progress shown on this 2-3 seconds of stepping on a scales once a week to see whether we're losing weight or not. What's much better to check your actual progress is using your average weight over at least 3 to 5 days every week. So you pick the same, it could be 5 weekdays, or it could be kind of, 2 weekends and a Monday or whatever it is. The more the better, the more accurate it is. But if you get your average weight, if you weigh yourself on a regular basis, you will get a much more sense and overview of what's actually happening in your body, as opposed to just hoping the stars are aligned for that one brief measurement on a Sunday morning or a Monday morning or whenever it is. So the only thing that we can predict is that your scale weight will fluctuate. So if you step on the scales for 7 days in a row, it's going to fluctuate. Myth number 5, weight loss is hard. The whole, mommy's on a diet and we're all going to die. This one again, kind of, most of you probably not agree with me on this one, but bear with me. 90% of people who lose a substantial amount of weight gain it back. It's the weight maintenance that's the hard part. So if I challenged you all now and I said, if you were to lose, I challenge you to lose 2 pounds, 3 pounds this week. And I'd say I would, just wait, don't care what it is. And if you did that, you get 5 grand. Hands up, who would do it? 2 or 3 pounds, you get 5 grand. You can do it. So losing the weight is not the hard part. You can do it. It's the consistency, it's the long term, it's the weight maintenance side of things that it's a lot harder. Maintaining weight is hard because of some of the methods that people use. It's too extreme and therefore the body fights us too much. It's too hard to live a normal life. As I kind of explained, the metabolism adapts to what we're doing, so it'll fight you for it. Even things like your body literally will force you to be more hungry because it wants more food. It's going to send hormonal signals to say, you're hungry, eat more. That's why maintaining that weight loss is so difficult. So one of the things is that we kind of have your body, your brain has an awareness of what you weigh, and we actually don't know how it does this. There are researchers trying to figure it out because they reckon when they do figure it out, they'll have a lot more control over helping people lose weight. But essentially, if you have a set point, your body is aware of how much it weighs and how much calories it needs throughout the day, etc. So when you lose weight, your body kind of doesn't realize it's lost as much as it has. So we need time to let our bodies catch up and kind of balance back out and kind of realize, okay, this is our new normal. So if I lose 5 kilos, I need to maintain that weight and hold on for a period of time to let my body know that this is the new normal. If I don't, my body literally, as I said, it kind of it alters your metabolism, sends out those hunger signals, etc., and can literally force people to gain the weight back. And again, it's one of the reasons why, again, 90% of people who lose a substantial amount of weight gain it all back. Come on, clicky. There we go. So one of the things, staying the same weight must be viewed as a great result, because most people can't maintain their weight. It kind of, the research shows it, that the maintaining weight is hard. So if you ever maintain your weight or you're kind of at a plateau, that is a good thing, not a bad thing. It needs to be viewed as progress. It needs to be viewed in the positive sense of the word, because if not, we then get disheartened, we get frustrated, etc., and then we end up giving up. And if we end up giving up, we know absolutely 100% you're going to gain weight back, and kind of, you're definitely not going to lose weight. Myth number 6, weight loss should be faster than we want. One of the most effective diets in the world is called the protein sparing modified fast. And essentially this diet, it's a medically controlled diet, roughly 600 to 800 calories a day. It's given to obese subjects to help them prep for surgery and stuff like that. And it's a fast weight loss diet. Over 18 weeks, the average weight loss is 2.6 pounds a week. And these are obese patients, which means it's easier for them to lose weight faster. So this is one of the most effective diets known to the medical community. And yet the speed of weight loss is roughly, if the person was 260 pounds, is 1%. If they were 300 pounds, it'd be less than 1% of their body weight. So physiologically, there's only so much weight we can lose, especially when it comes to fat loss, which is very important to kind of differentiate between weight loss and fat loss, because when we're losing fat, it's healthy for us. When we're losing just weight, we are dehydrating ourselves, we could be losing muscle, etc., and so on. So we want to be making sure we're targeting fat loss. So fast fat loss is hard. Because in a large part, what we expect, what we want, is actually physiologically impossible. Yes, we can lose weight in brief periods faster than that, but again, it's what are you losing? Water weight, you can kind of take, diuretics, fat burning pills and stuff like that. But essentially what they're all doing is just getting out of dumping weight out of the body, not actual fat. Because as I said, is when we go back to that slide where we're kind of burning fat as fuel and calories required to burn 1 pound of fat, 1 kilogram of fat, it's a lot. So we can't just magic those numbers out of anywhere. Our body has to burn that off in order to lose that weight. So yes, fast fat loss is hard. So one of the things is kind of like, is why should you get faster results than people under medical supervision? Do you know what I mean? Following one of the most kind of effective diets in the world. So in terms of if we're expecting these, consistent 2 pounds a week, we hear this number bandied out, or kind of, want to lose kind of, a stone in a month and blah, blah, blah. A lot of people, I ask them what the results, and they say these numbers, and it's kind of like, in terms of physiologically, that actually can't happen unless you do things that are very dangerous to your body. So roughly what you should be expecting is roughly between 0.5% and 1% of your body weight per week on average. And that's only when you're getting it right. So roughly between about 0.5% to 1% a week on average. Now that doesn't mean that some weeks you can lose more and then other weeks you might lose less. But if you're kind of roughly 0.5% to 1% of your body weight per week on average, you're on the right track. You shouldn't be expecting more than that, especially in terms of what we're willing to do to lose weight. As I said, these are kind of, the protein sparing modified fast is a medically controlled, very, very, very low calorie diet, given to subjects who are kind of, need to lose crap loads of weight really fast so they can have surgery. So myth number 7, how are we doing for time? All right, a little bit faster than I thought. So your diet should determine your weight. So a lot of people will say, again, going into that whole kind of, I'm eating less, therefore I should lose weight, or I've started exercising more, therefore I should lose weight. And it's like, that's not actually how it works, because you have very little knowledge of how much you've eaten and kind of how much you've burned off, etc. As I said, kind of, going back to those metabolic chambers is, they give people questionnaires in terms of how much food they think they're eating and stuff like that, and they're giving them the food, and kind of in terms of what calories in. And we always see that people overestimate the amount of calories they think they're eating, even people who are trying to overestimate it, and they underestimate the amount of calories that they're eating, and they overestimate the amount of exercise that they're doing, the amount of calories that they're burning off with exercise. So the only way you can tell whether what you're doing is working or not is by the scales. And again, getting average measurements over the course of multiple days, over the course of multiple weeks, to see what that trend is, versus just taking one arbitrary measurement, kind of once a week or whatever like that. Again, kind of, we have very little control over our metabolism. So just because you start being good more often doesn't guarantee you're going to lose weight. So your weight should determine your diet. Rather than your diet determining your weight, your actual weight should determine whether you stick with what you're doing or whether you change things around or whatever like that. So when you check your weight, here's a trend line of this blue line here is the person's average weight as they were losing over the course of a month. The red line and the red dots are actually the person's daily weight measurements. So if we see the red line going down and up and down and up and down and up and down and up, okay, weight fluctuates. That's what this person's weight has, literally over the course of a month has done. But the blue line is what the person needs to focus on, because that blue trend line is going down. And if that blue trend line is going down, it means that what they're doing is working, irrespective of what they're eating or what they think they're eating or what they think they should be doing in terms of get results wise or whatever. Now, one thing, oops, that's just disappeared on me. Cool. So see these two red arrows. These literally 25th of January, first red arrow, 1st of February, second red arrow. That's a week in the difference. The weight is the exact same, 140 pounds on those 2 days. Again, this is like, if this person was only measuring themselves once a week on this specific day, once every 7 days, that would show that they haven't gotten any results. Their weight is the exact same, 140 pounds on both days. They wouldn't have seen this fluctuation down and up, or they wouldn't have seen this blue trend line on its way down if they were just doing these arbitrary single measurements. And that's why, again, to reinforce, just looking at your scale weight on one measurement is so kind of meaningless and pointless, because it will fluctuate due to so many factors that some you can control and you get good at it, but others you can't control. So the other thing then is if you're using this kind of measurement, a daily measurement every 5 day measurements and stuff like that, when your weight goes up, the blue trend line still goes down, because it's taking the average over the last period of time to show you what your average weight is, as opposed to, again, just these one measurements. Because what happens with a lot of people is they step on the scales, they say they've been good, and their weight goes up or it stays the same. And then all of a sudden they kind of go, oh, what's the point? This isn't working. And again, as those single measurements are only a little snapshot, looking at the trend line, if the trend line is coming down, it is working, irrespective of whether that one day went up or not. If the trend line is staying fairly consistent and staying the same, well, now you've found out how to maintain the weight that you're at. You know that trend line is staying the same, so you know your diet is largely supporting maintenance, which means you've got to eat a little bit less, irrespective of what you think you were doing or anything like that. Your weight determines what you do with your diet. Does that make sense? Give me some nods and stuff like that. I can see you all, okay? Cool. So myth number 9, exercise burns a lot of calories, burns a lot of fat. Exercise burns fuel. It burns a mix of fat, protein, and carbohydrate calories. So does sitting on your arse. Right now, you're burning calories. We burn calories all day, every day. We burn a mix of fat, protein, and carbs all the time. In fact, we burn the highest percentage of fat when we're resting versus when we're active. When we're active, our body leans more towards burning carbohydrate for fuel because it's more efficient. It's easier to burn that sugar into fuel for us than it is to burn fat. When we're at rest, our body uses a lot more fat. About 60-70% of our energy comes from fat. You sitting down right now, about 60% of your calories are being burned from fat. The problem is you're burning very few calories right now. So that's where the kind of the whole kind of it's kind of like these fat burning zone myths and stuff like that come into it. It's like, yes, we can burn higher percentage of the fat at lower heart rates, let's say, which is essentially what we're doing right now, but we're not burning a lot of calories. Your exercise calorie burn. So when you exercise, you burn more calories, you essentially increase your metabolism at that kind of moment for that exercise period. One of the things though is that, as I said, it's much less than we think it is. Any sort of Fitbit tracker type of thingy calculator or whatever like that telling us how many calories were burned, heart rate monitors and stuff like that, they're all an overestimated guess. You know, again, this has been shown when you put people in those metabolic chambers and stuff like that, we burn much fewer calories than that. But also the other thing is that, let's say roughly for me, I burn roughly about 100 calories per hour. That's roughly what my metabolic rate is, my base metabolic rate. So when I'm at rest, I burn roughly 100 calories. So when I exercise, and let's say I do a training session and I burn 400 calories, well, I've really only burned 300 extra. Because if I sat in my arse, I would have burned 100 anyway. Does that make sense? So your calorie burn during exercise, you've got to minus what you would have burned sitting on your arse already again. So again, essentially it was just is we don't burn a huge amount of calories / fat when we're exercising. That's not what exercise is for. Now, 1 kilo of body fat is worth about 7,700 calories. So again, in terms of how much exercise that is, if I burn 500 calories, that's 15 exercise sessions to try and burn 1 kilo of fat from exercise alone. And that's if all 500 calories from exercise came from fat, which we know they don't. They'll come from a mix of everything. So again, just using exercise or kind of saying, you know, I exercise a lot or whatever like that. It's not about burning calories. It's not why we should be exercising. Exercising is to build function, strength, balance, ability, fitness, etc. And then also to protect our muscles. As I said, one of the things with what exercise, especially when we do resistance exercises, what's so effective about it, it basically signals your body when it's trying to cannibalize its tissue, is to say, hey, keep the muscle tissue because we're using this for the exercise that we're doing, but you can take the fat. So exercise is a kind of a stimulus to hold on to the right healthy kind of tissue and tell the body and signal, say, hey, cannibalize the fat, but leave the muscle alone. Does that make sense? As I said, there's a huge amount of benefits, and obviously with the mental health benefits of exercise and that kind of thing as well. Going back to this metabolic chamber kind of thing that we were talking about. So this is again, just one subject's 23 hours that they spent in the chamber. And this is essentially their calorie expenditure per minute in half-hour chunks, in half-hour blocks. So, and again, this is the kind of most accurate way we can actually measure someone's metabolism. So when they're sitting at a computer, you know, like 1.5, 2 calories per minute. When they're exercising on the bike, up to 6 calories per minute. If you notice that they did 3 30-minute blocks during the day as part of this study, and every 30 minutes, the amount of calories that they burned during those 30 minutes dropped down. Again, this was an unconscious thing that happened because the body was getting tired. It had already exercised. It was like, I'm not going to give you as much on this next exercise session. We do another exercise set. I'm not going to give you as much of this exercise session. So again, it's not about this linear, I burn X amount during exercise and I'll always do this. It's very dependent on your body's metabolism will adapt and change and tweak things. And that's why over exercising or doing too much can actually be counterproductive. The other thing I want to show you is this person ended up burning 2,300 calories in a day. They thought they had a slow metabolism. They could have sworn, oh, I've got a slow metabolism. I only eat about 1,500 calories to 2,000 calories a day is what they thought they were eating. And yet when an actual metabolism was measured, it was higher than what they actually thought it was. And then healthy eating equals weight loss. So this is one of the things I kind of hear a lot, that people will say, oh no, I eat very healthily, so it can't be my diet. Well, we know that it is the diet because, as I said, everything that we've gone through here in terms of the metabolism, the exercise and stuff like that has very, very little effect on our overall, how much we're burning throughout the day. So a few years ago, I followed this guy on YouTube who did an experiment with himself. He called it the ice cream diet, and basically for 100 days he ate nothing but ice cream. Sorry, I tell a lie. He ate 2,000 calories worth of ice cream and 500 calories from protein and beer. And the 500 calories were to help his muscle, you know, in terms of protein. But if he had some beer, he had to take it out of his protein calories. The 2,000 calories were set at ice cream. And he lost 32 pounds. I'm going to show you a before and after of him as well. So he lost weight eating 2,500 calories a day for 100 days. Majority of that was from ice cream, and he lost weight. So it's not about what you're eating. It comes down to actually how much. There's another story about a Twinkie diet professor who ate nothing but Twinkies for a period of time. And again, he lost weight. Now, when we speak about people can say, it's like, well, surely that can't be healthy for you, just eating ice cream or just eating Twinkies. This is your man, 192 to 160 pounds, eating 2,000 calories worth of ice cream every single day for 100 days. When they measured their health markers, and they did this as an experiment, so they got their blood work done before and they got their blood work done after, they got healthier. All their blood markers, their cholesterol, fasting glucose, all the kind of markers of health in their blood improved, got healthier. Why did they get healthier? Because they lost fat. So when you lose fat, fat isn't like an inanimate tissue in the body. Fat stimulates hormone production. Fat does things to our body, having excess fat on our body. So when we lose that fat, it is healthy for us. And one of the healthiest things we can do is lose the extra, if we're storing excess fat, is to lose it. So calories matter a lot more than what we eat. Now, when I wrote this, it actually got me to, thinking about the Black Lives Matter kind of movement, that some people argue against it, going, well, no, all lives matter, all lives matter. It's like, just because we say Black Lives Matter doesn't mean we're saying all lives don't matter. So when I say calories matter, that doesn't mean that what we eat doesn't matter. It does matter, because it can influence our hunger, and it can influence, if we eat more protein, it helps with our muscles and stuff like that. But when it comes down to it, calories matter far more than what we eat. But as I said, what we eat still does matter. And as I said, it's not, again, I wouldn't recommend the Twinkie diet, and I wouldn't recommend the ice cream diet because they are extremely difficult and challenging. Your man's blog, the guy who lost the ice cream, stuff like that, he felt horrendous. He had to stop exercising. He just felt so sick while he was actually doing it. But it still, if it was effective as his experiment to lose weight, showing that you can lose weight basically eating ice cream. Eating less equals weight loss. So this is the kind of thing where, we kind of have to look at food volume versus the actual calorie content of food. Just because you're hungry doesn't mean that you're eating less, or you're kind of, you're in this kind of calorie deficit and stuff like that. And you can still overeat and be hungry all the time. So that's where kind of food choice matters a lot. You've got to figure out and find your foods that are actually satiating, fill you up. And, kind of for some people, different foods will work better than others. But largely things like protein and fiber, vegetables, your protein will fill us up a hell of a lot more. And you can feel full and be stuffed, but still undereat over the course of the day. So again, is hunger and fullness aren't necessarily signs of whether, predictors of whether I'm going to lose weight or gain weight or anything like that. So here's an example of, like, let's say this, kind of a couple of teaspoons of olive oil, coconut oil, peanut butter, a couple of Ferrero Rochers, nearly 800 calories, 600 grams of strawberries, 180 calories. So the volume of the 800 calories, the volume of the 600 grams of strawberries is so big, it's a lot of, dense volume coming in. So that's where smart food choices come in play, that you can eat an awful lot. Again, imagine trying to eat 760 calories worth of strawberries. It's a lot of strawberries, yeah? Now you go into, imagine trying to do the equivalent of chicken breasts or broccoli and stuff like that. So that's where food choice really comes into play, that if you're kind of bulking up your meals with protein, vegetables, high fiber vegetables. Again, I've been speaking a lot over the last couple of weeks about kind of fist-sized portions of vegetables. So you get your fist and kind of try and kind of eat around 3 or 4 of them a day. Certainly when you're putting them on your plate, is kind of have a look at how many fist-sized portions are actually on my plate. The more of them you can have, because vegetables are very, very low in calories, but they can give you that density and fullness. And myth number 11, my extra Brucey bonus that I said I'd give you. Certain foods are fattening. So again, the whole kind of abs and ice cream side of things, but generally we blame carbs and fats. So things like sugar, cakes, crisps, chocolate biscuits, takeaways. We all think that when I eat these, they're fattening, or that, it's kind of like someone's being good for, a serious number of days, and then all of a sudden they have some chocolate. Now, I've ruined my diet, I've broken my diet, I've gone off the diet, I've fallen off the wagon, so on and so forth. You haven't. You've just eaten a couple of 100 calories. That's it. all it is. And in the grand scheme of things, when we're looking at 3,500 calories per pound of fat, a couple of hundred calories is not going to make or break things, especially if you view it that way, that going, it's only a couple of hundred calories and I can get my, that was my treat day that week, or every couple of days, or that individual day, depending on how many calories it was. Or if it was something that unplanned and you kind of you ate chocolate and you didn't plan on eating it or something like that, well, you just go, well, I'll just get back with my next meal. It was just a wobble. I just, had a craving, I had some chocolate, it was 250 calories. What can happen with the opposite is that if we view it as being as catastrophic as some people tell me it is, it's a chain reaction that causes this kind of snowball effect of, oh, well, I've ruined my diet, so I might as well give up now. And then I might as well have another bar or another packet of crisps, or, screw this, I'm going to open a bottle of wine and I'm going to blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, 250 calories is turned into 2,500 calories. That's when it starts to become, kind of a hindrance to progress. But one day, one meal, one food is not going to ruin our efforts or results. It doesn't have to ruin our efforts or results. It's only a wobble, and we just kind of get the next meal right. So we'll only gain fat weight when you put in more calories than you burn off, and that's it. That's the only way you're going to gain fat weight, is when you put in more calories than you burn off. Now, here's the thing. The problem with this is that when we eat, that's what you're doing. Every time you eat, you're eating more calories than you're actually burning off. So every time you eat, you're going into storage mode, whether you're storing protein, carbs, because your body's going to have to take all that energy out and either use it or store it every single time we eat. So if I eat a 500 calorie meal, I'm not burning 500 calories in the time it takes me to eat that meal. Even if I'm trying to run on a treadmill, it's not happening, right? So we can look at this as all foods are fattening, because every time we eat, we're going to go into storage mode, but it's the net effect of what I've eaten versus what I've burnt off over the course of the 24-hour period in one day versus the 7 days over the course of the week versus the 20 or 31 days in a month, and so on and so forth. The net result of how much have I eaten versus how much have I burnt off. So you've got to look at the big picture rather than an individual, again, going back to that one meal, one food kind of an isolation kind of thing. So all food is fattening because of the calories consumed versus calories burned at mealtime. However, no individual food on its own can ruin your results and derail an effort in terms of weight loss. So it's the net result of what you're putting in versus what you're putting out that matters most. And remember, it's those weekly and monthly averages rather than just a daily, one daily number if you're measuring yourself on a daily basis. And certainly if you're doing it once a week, again, those numbers don't really show you as much of an insight as a regular measurement over a period of days, over a period of weeks is going to actually give you. So, do we have any questions? How do we stop this? There we go, stop share. Perfect. Excellent. So, okay, here's go. I have a question for you then. Out of those slides, and I'll do a quick recap on them, which one resonated with you most? Out of those slides, just type it into the chat box, which one resonated with you most? So I'll kind of go back over them. How do we, come on, exit. So we had myth number one was we lose weight. We don't lose weight, we burn it. And we expel it through our mouth in the form of carbon. We can change our metabolism. Largely we can't in the long-term scheme of things. Number three was when our weight goes down, it's a good thing. Our weight goes up, it's a bad thing. It's not. We can't judge our weight from one measurement alone, because we don't know what that actual weight was that changed. The whole weight loss is predictable side of things is like the only thing that's predictable is that your scale weight will fluctuate. You don't know how your body is responding to your diet. As I said, you could create over the course of 7 days a 3,500 calorie deficit by what you've eaten and eaten less. but your body could actually change your metabolism and alter how many calories you're burning on a regular basis so that you only lose half a pound as instead to the pound that we predict that you might lose. That weight loss is hard. Yes, okay, we said fast weight loss is hard, but kind of, again, anybody could lose 2 to 3 pounds in a week, especially if there was 5 or 10 grand on the line. Maintaining that weight loss, that's the hard part. Again, largely because of the methods people use and the kind of the adaptations in the metabolism that can happen. The whole kind of weight loss should be fast side of things, or kind of this idea of a consistent 2 pounds a week or whatever like that. We want more. Kind of any amount of weight loss should be celebrated, and it's a positive thing. And it's certainly as well, going back into maintaining your weight and keeping it the same thing is a positive and good thing for you as well. The whole myth of your diet should determine what your scales say, what you've eaten, or kind of your kind of efforts throughout the week should determine what your scale weight is. It's not. It's the opposite way around. Is your weight determines your approach. I said if your weight is trending in the right direction, especially using those averages, you're doing good. If it's not, we need to change something. Something needs to be adjusted. Number 8 was exercise burns a lot of fat, which it doesn't. However, there's a lot of benefits from exercising when it's not just about calorie burn. Healthy eating equals weight loss. We showed you the ice cream diet guy. Eating less equals weight loss. Again, we got to look at the volume of food or the triggers the food have within us that can keep us fuller for longer, or we could eat an awful lot of calories for very little satisfaction or very little fullness. And that's why I say, some people might say, it's like, I'm not eating that much, but maybe in food volume wise, but in actual energy density wise we are. And then that specific foods in themselves are fattening. It's like, well, all foods are actually fattening, even broccoli. Now, where are we going? So perfect. So to Sean, exercise is pointless. Yeah, Sean, I think you missed that the point of that one. Myth 8, exercise burns a lot of fat. Myth 9, healthy eating equals weight loss. Good stuff. Weight loss is hard. Maintaining is hard. Number 9, healthy eating, all about planning. Exercise burns a lot of fat. This breaks my heart, killing myself to burn. Well, here's the thing, is that's all the thing is, we're not killing ourselves to burn. We are protecting our bodies with exercise. Okay, exercise is one of, without a shadow of a doubt, is one of the best things for longevity. Because it keeps our joints healthy and strong. Even now we look at what exercise does to our joints in terms of people who have arthritis, and it actually stimulates the rebuilding of cartilage. Yet when we have joint pain, it's kind of like, oh no, is exercise going to be bad? I can't lift weights and blah, blah, blah. And it actually shows that when we do that, we actually regenerate the cartilage more so in our joints. So even something like that is looking after our joints, looking after our muscle longevity, and just being a highly functioning human being, is being strong is really, really advantageous to so many different things. Being able to move around and that kind of thing. Is weight loss maintenance more difficult as we age? That's a great question, Rose. Exercise burns fat too. So I burst a lot of people's bubbles with the whole exercise burns fat. Kind of largely the amount of exercise that we do is going to burn, again, will roughly be somewhere between about 10 and 20% of our total daily calorie burn. But again, is like, if we, like I showed you with that picture where that person was on the bike and it dropped down, each subsequent 30-minute session burnt less calories because the metabolism was just saying, I'm not giving you any extra here. Essentially it's, due to fatigue and stuff like that going on. So it's even if we try and burn off more with exercise, it doesn't mean our metabolism is going to go, okay, yeah, no problem, do it. What can happen is your metabolism goes, right, you burned an extra 200 with that exercise, I'm giving you 200 less for the rest of the day. So that's what we got to be smart about it. And just, again, it's about playing the long game. Is weight loss maintenance more difficult as we age, Rose? Essentially what can happen as we age is we move less, okay? Like, it's like, I'd love to put a step counter on Logan, right? The amount of steps he does, he's like so active, run around the place, etc., all day, every day. He helps me keep my step count up as well. But obviously as we age, we move less. during, you know, I haven't seen any studies kind of looking at it, but I guarantee you we're moving less during COVID than we were prior to COVID because we're getting out of the house less. Do you know what I mean? You know, we're stuck in, we're confined a hell of a lot more. So, you know, COVID is bad for weight loss and weight maintenance, purely because we're moving less. So as we age, yes, we tend to become less active. So therefore our metabolism slows down, but it's not really our metabolism. It's actually us, we're slowing down, we're moving less. So we've got to make sure that we're doing more activity, and it's not just, you know, planned exercise activity. It's just being more mobile and moving more. And then what can happen is then, you know, beyond the age of 30 is we start to lose muscle mass. That's if we're not looking after the muscle with exercise. So if somebody's not exercising, their muscle is going to deteriorate every decade. And it's when you see them people in their 80s and 90s and they're extremely frail and stuff like that, they've lost a huge amount of muscle, because your body basically stops signaling to keep the muscle, because it's like, well, you're not using it. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's say Logan, he's running around and stuff like that. He's developing his coordination and he's moving, he's learning how to jump and everything like that. So his muscle is so active, his body's like, we're going to keep building, and you know, he's going to keep growing because he's basically stressing his body to grow. But it comes to the point where we get to a curve and we start doing less and less, and body just goes, well, I don't need any more muscle, or I don't need even the muscle we have on it because we're just not using it. I don't need range of movement in joints. I don't need this because you're not using it. So the more we use it in terms of the activity that we're doing, and if we're doing weights and resistance training and stuff like that, we can offset an awful lot of the metabolic adaptations to it. But generally, even with all our efforts, we probably, you know, we will have to eat fewer calories as the decades go on. So I hope that answers your question, Rose. Unfortunately, as we age, we tend to probably eat more than we used to. Certainly, as I said, as Logan is like, he finished his dinner last night and he went to now lunch. But he's not a pick on him either. So he's very active. Other questions?
John, can I just ask you a question? It's Nicola.
Yes.
So coming around to that myth number 8, exercise burns a lot of fat. Would you, I don't know how to phrase this, but like, if you're not feeling that you should be exercising because you're exhausted that day, are you better resting your body than putting yourself through that? Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
so it's the type of exercise or the intensity of exercise that would change rather than the exercise itself. So exercise can help us actually recover. So if we look at, let's say, I kind of take extreme examples like athletes and stuff like that, elite athletes. So, you know, we kind of look at the Irish rugby team or the Leinster rugby team or whatever. They don't take days off, because if they do, they actually would stiffen up and actually recover less than if they do light sessions. So, you know, a light session could be just some light core work, some mobility work and stuff like that. But, you know, for me at the moment, I'm doing some recovery runs where I'm literally keeping my heart rate under 140 beats per minute. Now, it's practically walking pace, right? It's a way I can increase my overall aerobic fitness, but it's a really slow run essentially because my heart rate isn't going above 140 beats per minute, or I'm trying to keep it down. And when it does go over and I can't get it back down, I stop and I walk. That's a recovery day. It's not exhausting me. It's not taking anything out. And actually, when I wake up the next day, I'm like, oh God, I feel amazing. Whereas when I don't put one of those recovery runs, now I'm not doing them every day or whatever like that, I've other exercise and stuff like that, but those runs are helping me recover from a heavier kind of leg session that I do, because they're helping the blood flow around the body. They're helping get oxygen and nutrients to the muscles and stuff like that. So they're helping recovery. So I would never say don't do anything or take a day off, but a walk and some stretching and mobility and stuff like that will actually stimulate regeneration and recovery so that you feel better afterwards and the next day, so that when you go into your next training session, you're actually more capable of it rather than taking complete rest. Does that make sense? So no matter how tired you are, the other thing as well, there's a great kind of meme or a quote. It's like, never take a day off because life has a tendency of giving you them. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, we'll say, I'll do it tomorrow. And then something happens tomorrow and you're like, oh crap, I'm so busy and blah, 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 or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? So, you know, our best laid plans, you know, if we take a day off, we don't know what's actually going to happen tomorrow, and tomorrow might be actually harder to fit a session in because something might happen. Do you know what I mean? So as I said, is we always kind of do something because something is a hell of a lot better than nothing. Great question, super question. So it was the exercise burns fat really was the one that it's kind of 4 or 5 you kind of pointed out that one really burst your bubble. But one of the things I want to kind of reiterate with the exercise side of things in terms of resistance training, weight training, is going back to the whole with weight loss and kind of, you know, the exercise's role in weight loss is that when you try to lose weight, you're obviously trying to put in more than you're burning off, right? So you're telling your body now there's a calorie deficit, and we have a shortage of fuel coming in, so we need to consume, we need to get fuel from somewhere, and that's going to come from those fuel tanks. It can come from protein, carbs, or fat. Okay, it can come from those 3 places. Your body is not too selective of that. It'll just take what it can. Muscle is very easy to take it from. Fat is actually a little bit harder for you to take it from. So sometimes your body will just go, I'll just consume the muscle, I'll just eat the muscle. However, if we're exercising, especially with resistance training, if I do a resistance training session, I've stimulated muscle growth. I have altered my hormones, and I've basically told my body to build muscle. So if I'm sending a signal to build muscle to my body, but I put in less food, my body's going to go, well, I'm not going to take the muscle because he's told me to build it. I'm going to take the tissue, the stored fuel from fat instead. So that's where weight loss, or in terms of exercise, how effective resistance training and weights is for fat loss. It's because it spares the muscle, which means that if you lose 5 pounds of weight and it's all fat, you've lost 5 pounds of fat. If you lose 5 pounds of weight and 2.5 of it's fat and 2.5 of it's muscle, you've only lost 2.5 pounds of fat. So you can still lose the same amount of weight, but half of it's healthy weight and good weight from the muscle. Whereas, as I said, when you're doing the right exercise and eating enough protein, you hold on to that muscle, and you tend to burn more fat as a result of that. Does that make sense? That's a really big thing to grasp. Is I don't know why, as I said, kind of resistance training is so important, because it, as I said, is kind of it spares your muscle and makes you burn more fat. Essentially, if I lose 10,000 calories and it's all coming from fat, I'm losing 10,000 calories from fat. If I lose 10,000 calories, but 3,000 of it comes from muscle, I haven't lost as much fat as I could have. So that's where the whole kind of, there's kind of like, where, some people say, oh, does weights burn more fat than cardio and stuff like that? And it's like, that's not how it works, but it's kind of, as I explained it there, lifting weights is muscle sparing. Perfect, lovely. Listen, you're very welcome, Rose, no problem. That was fun, I enjoyed that. Thank you very much for joining me, guys. Any specific questions on this, I'll send out the recording, and any other questions as we go through this. I'll answer them through email or whatever like that. And anything you wanted me to go more in depth into, I'll happily do another one next week. I can go over one specific area, or if you have anything else that I haven't covered tonight, do let me know. I'm open for suggestions. Good night, everybody. Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye.